kind of the disconnect for, like, people don't think TJ Edwards can play, but a lot of people think Quez Watkins can play. If you go into a season with Quez Watkins as your wide receiver 2 in the NFL, you are setting up Jalen Hurts for failure. Is that too harsh? Or
he is John McMullen. I am Jody McDonald, and this is our favorite Eagles beat reporter for Sports Illustrated. Oh, damn, that would make McMullen number 2. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
Clearly number 2 in Jody McDonald's eyes. I have no problem with that. Ed's better. Ed's a better guy than me. Ed's a better person than me, so I have no problem with that.
The one thing we can all agree, the three of us are follically challenged. No one can stand him go, yeah, but I got better hair. Well, no, that's completely irrelevant in this conversation. Mr. Kratz, didn't have you last week. What the hell did you do in your life for the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I can't really quite remember, to be honest. But, hey, it's an honor to kick off the week here with you guys. It's my pleasure to, join you here bright and early on Monday morning.
Yeah, we're missing the AFC coaches meetings, Ed. It's exciting stuff down in Palm Beach. More exciting because it's thinking 30 degrees up here, so it would be nice to be in Palm Beach. But it's interesting because you did something at Sports Illustrated about the Eagles in the first round of the draft, and you talked about the moving up and moving down, which I think is becoming more of a possibility, more of a likelihood is, I guess, the better word. Always, thought that there's no way that Howie's going to stay at all 3, 15, 16, and 19. But you had an interesting take in that they might go up at first, and then they might go down with that third pick. So kind of flesh that out for us.
Yeah, I just think that this draft is so deep, and there are so many, potential starters in this draft that you can find them, throughout the first 3 or 4 rounds, I think. So, teams will be looking to trade. And we say this every year that, in the draft, teams are going to move around and then we don't see a whole lot of action. But I think this could be a draft where we see some wheeling and dealing going on. And the Eagles will be right in that mix. And, Howie always likes to trade up. And I fully suspect, kind of like last year when they had their eyes on, I think it was 5 players that they wanted, 2 of them were cornerbacks, J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, the third. And those 4 of those 5 came off the board in the first 9 picks. And that's why they traded up with Dallas to get one. They wanted to make sure they got one of those players. And that turned out to be Devontae Smith. He was on that list along with Kyle Pitts. And I kind of feel like there's going to be a similar situation this year where they're going to trade up. And you look at who's sitting at number 10, and it's Joe Douglas, the worked here in Philadelphia, obviously, for 4 years with Howie Roseman. And I've been told that the Jets do want to trade back a little bit. And I think it just makes sense that the Eagles could be there ready to jump to 10. And I even pondered in this story you're talking about, John, that could they even trade up to number 4 if they're so in love with one of these quarterbacks? And we know quarterback stocks always rise with the draft as it approaches. And, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, and even Matt Corral are getting a lot of love. And I've seen mock drafts where 3 of those guys go in the top 10 with the Falcons trading in, the Lions taking one. I mean, you're talking about, I heard your conversation earlier about pass rushers or edge rushers not being there at 15. I think you have to factor in the quarterbacks in this draft. Who's going to take it?
Yeah, somebody's going to get pushed up.
Yeah, for sure. If not 2 of those quarterbacks. And I think the Eagles, if they love Kenny Pickett, they could go all the way up to 4 with the Jets to try to
I see. Yeah, Jody's shaking his head. See, I think, and I told you this, Ed, as you know, everybody makes a big deal out about, Howie Roseman with the binoculars looking at Kenny Pickett. Who were they playing on that day? They were playing North Carolina. Yeah. I think the Eagles like Sam Howell. I think they're more likely to trade down from 19 Now, they want to stay in the top 32 because you want that 50-year option when it comes to quarterbacks. But I think they might shock people with the Sam Howell. And I see Jody, and I'll throw Jody that as well. Look, these quarterback stocks, man, you can't get caught up in the social media groupthink because NFL teams look different. And you look at it like this time, going into this year's process, who were the top quarterbacks? The top quarterbacks you heard of early were Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler.
Right.
Well, Spencer Rattler's now in South Carolina, I think, trying to reclaim his career after losing his job at Oklahoma. Obviously, Sam took a lot of hits after he lost, Javonte Williams, who I love, and Dynami Brown and Michael Carter, and they had another receiver that got drafted, and kind of took a hit. But I think NFL teams think a little bit more of Sam Howell than maybe, for lack of better term, draft Twitter. Same thing with Kenny Pickett. Same thing with Malik Willis.
Well, listen, you don't have to sell me on Sam Howell. It's Jody Mack there you have to sell on Sam Howell. I
tell me all of them. None of them can play. None of them are franchise quarterbacks. Why the hell are you going to move into the top half of the first half to
Somebody's
get Sam
going
Darnold?
to.
That's
Somebody's
what you're
going
acquiring if you get one of these guys in the draft this year. Sam Darnold. How's that working out for the Jets and the Carolina Panthers?
Hey, I saw, I think it was Field Yates who covers the NFL. He put out a tweet a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, that there were 29 quarterbacks taken in the first round of the draft.
Yeah, none of them are with their original teams.
Yeah. I mean, which is really kind of amazing when you look at it. And this draft could be that situation. Jody, you know how teams fall in love with these quarterbacks as the draft approaches. And I fully expect that we'll see maybe two of these guys go in the top 10. So listen, I'm not saying the Eagles are going to go up to number 4. I think it's a big leap for the Philadelphia Eagles. They would really have to love one of these quarterbacks. And Sam Howell, it's way too early for him. But you have to keep an eye on the Steelers and the Falcons trading up to try to land a quarterback because they need a quarterback. Say what you want about Marcus Mariota in Atlanta and Mitch Trubisky in Pittsburgh. They need a quarterback.
They do
for the
need
future.
That I would agree with. And if they overdrafted at the quarterback position, I wouldn't be surprised because they're doing so because they're kind of in the desperate need. The Eagles aren't. Just my personal opinion, and again, taking the Eagles at their word, they have verbally backed Jalen Hurts throughout this entire offseason. I think Jalen Hurts did more than enough to merit another year at court. Hey, if Trevor Lawrence was available this year, I'd be moving heaven and earth to try and get up there and get him if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles. There's no Trevor Lawrence in this draft. So the Eagles are playing their cards right by staying with you. They got involved in Russell Wilson. They tried to, no, sorry, he's not coming. They inquired about Deshaun Watson. Yeah, he wants no part of Philadelphia. They certainly looked into upgrading the quarterback position. Moving up to number 4 to take Kenny Pickett is not improving the quarterback position, not for this year, next year, or the year after.
Well, then, I have them trading up actually to number 10. I think 4 is a little too steep.
Taking a quarterback, Eddie?
No. I think they're going to go with Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati. I think it would have been interesting last year had Devontae Smith gone at number 9 to whoever it was, I guess Carolina or Denver, whoever picked her. I think it was Denver.
I think it was 8-9. Carolina picked Horn, and then Denver took Surtain.
It would have been interesting to see had someone taken Devontae Smith, either Carolina or Denver there. The Eagles trade up to take one of those cornerbacks because I know they wanted a cornerback.
Yeah, they did.
And I fully suspect that, Sauce Gardner is considered the best one in this draft at corner. So I think they're going to try to trade up to 10 to take Sauce Gardner, give up their 15th overall to the Jets and throw in maybe, a third rounder, maybe a third rounder as well next year or a later round pick this year. But the Jets have so many picks this year that I would think they'd want something next year. But I think it would cost a third rounder to do that. I think they go up for the cornerback.
Let me ask you this, Ed. You just laid out the potential scenario. Would you rather have Sauce Gardner and whatever other draft compensation you have to add to get him at number 10, or just sit tight and take a Booth or a Stingley, assuming one of the two are there? And John and I just they did a whole thing about the edge pass rushers and the Eagles getting shortchanged because they all come off the board. I don't think all three of those cornerbacks are coming off the board by 15. Certainly Gardner.
I got to add McDuffie in there as well. Because I got the Eagles taking McDuffie at 15. I think he'll be there.
Do you think McDuffie's better than Booth and Stingley, John?
Yeah, I do. McDuffie is my second best corner behind Gardner. Yeah. Okay. I think he's cleaner. I think he's more ready to play. And I've talked to some scouts who, he's one of those, he's a West Coast guy, obviously, and people are going to balk in Philadelphia because they think everything's the same. And the Eagles took Sidney Jones from Washington, but different type of corner. And I think he's one of the safer prospects. I think he's going to be a good player for a long time. Stingley's probably got a bigger upside, but I think he's going to have some issues early in his career. And then I think they're both better than Booth, would be my personal grading.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Eagles want length at that position, and the best player with length is Ahmed Gardner, and that's why I think they would probably put him above the others. If we have a chance to go get him, let's go get him. Now, listen, Jordan Davis could be on the board still at number 10, but I think this draft is pretty deep at defensive tackle, and I think they turn around and use their 16th pick on one, which I laid out in my story. It would be, I think, Devontae Wyatt from Georgia at 16, because I think Davis would be gone between 10 and 16. But, you talk about Booth, and I think he doesn't have the great length, and I don't think McDuffie has the length either that the Eagles would want. I think that the guys with length are Stingley, who I think the player comp with him is Stephon Gilmore. He's a 6 foot and a half cornerback with pretty long arms, but Ahmad Gardner certainly fits that length bill. So I think those are the two corners you have to look at. If you sit at 15 and you want a corner, then Stingley, I think, would be the guy if he's still there. But I think they really want to go up. And, they have a history with the University of Cincinnati. Have taken some very good players from there, obviously Trent Cole, Brent Selleck, Jason Kelsey, to name a couple there. So I think they go up and try to get that corner, stay put at 16, take their tackle. And then with 19, I was trying to look around to see if there's any teams that might be willing to part with a first-round pick next year, because there seems to be a lot of talk about the Eagles wanting to get another first-rounder in 2023 to kind of couch their bets on Jalen Hurts, giving them more ammunition to take, one of these quarterbacks that are perceived to be better than this class, C.J. Stroud or, Bryce Young. And I think, John, you and I talked about Bryce Young. Man, he's a pretty frail
small
guy.
Yeah, I saw him at the Maxwell Awards. He's really small.
Yeah.
Which is one thing, we talk about the quarterbacks. One thing I should have mentioned is sort of the shift in the NFL. Like, once you get off that first year rookie contract, and it's a good example with Jalen Hurts, but even more so, take a Kyler Murray as an example, as an undersized quarterback, number 1 overall. Very talented kid. I don't think any of us would disagree with that. But you see, he's already talking about extension. Do you want to pay Kyler Murray $40+ million a year? I don't know. So I think I think there's going to be more teams shifting to this mentality of college, where it's like you got 4 years and then, now red shirt's 5, but whatever. And you turn it over, and you have that cost-effective quarterback until you get the true superstar. Obviously, if you get the true superstar, you have to pay him. But what is the use of paying a guy who's average or a little bit above average $40 million, and then you can't build the rest of your roster? So I think the NFL is going to start shifting in that direction, and that's another reason why guys like Willis and Pickett will get pushed up the board a little bit. Think them off base, on base, both of you chime in.
All right, I'll go first. Which of those quarterbacks you just threw out there who are going to be drafted this year are going to be the equivalent of Kyler Murray?
Probably not.
None. Thank you very much.
But the part you're not, but the part you're not getting, Jody, is at a rookie cost-effective deal versus $40+ million. That's my question.
Understood.
What's better?
Understood. But Kyler Murray, before he gets his new deal done, will have won how many playoff games for the Arizona Cardinals?
Probably zero.
Zero. So you're telling me let's turn the franchise over to a guy who we don't think is good as a quarterback who has won 0 playoff games in the first 4 years in the NFL.
Yeah, but it's not only about the quarterback. Like maybe you could build a team a different way and have a better defense or a better offensive line.
Why hasn't Arizona done that yet with Murray in there if they had the chance to take advantage of his rookie deal?
Well, everything's about evaluation, but the fact they haven't been able to do it on this rookie deal gives you a pretty clear indication they're not going to be able to do it when they got to pay the quarterback $40+ million. So
that's true. That's Cardinals fans want to hear, but that's very true, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, that's the kind of purgatory I'm talking about. So that's why I think NFL teams are going to shift to. And Murray's probably the most difficult decision because he's a really good player. It becomes less difficult when you have quarterbacks. I'll go down to Kirk Cousins of the world, the Derek Carrs of the world, the Jalen Hurts of the world. If you got to pay those guys $35-40 million, would you rather have Kenny Pickett on a rookie deal and see if he's better than we think he is for 4 years and try to do with that? And if he's not, roll it over again and get somebody else. Is it crazy?
I don't think it's crazy at all. I really don't think the Eagles are out on Kenny Pickett at all. I mean, if he's sitting there at 15, which he won't be, I could see them taking Kenny Pickett at 15, but he'll go earlier than that. It's just a question of whether you like him, because I agree. I think, especially when you factor in now Deshaun Watson getting a guaranteed $230 million, you know, they don't guarantee contracts in the NFL that often. That's baseball guarantees contracts. So, you know, once you start guaranteeing that kind of money to quarterbacks, then yeah, you're going to have to really keep rolling it over. You have 4 years to audition as the quarterback to get your contract. And, you know, Kenny Pickett to me has the size. He's 6'3", 215. He's able to get the ball out quick, which I think Nick Sirianni is intrigued by. So I got
to see his small hands at dinner. If he could handle the
steak knife.
Yeah, the steak knife. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's really that big of an issue. I mean, you know, he played in a cold weather city in Pittsburgh. So listen, I'm not so sure the Eagles are out on Kenny Pickett, to be honest.
I'll still stand by. I don't think there's any way the Eagles will take a quarterback in the first round. All right, Ed, more recently, the Eagles signed Kazir White, linebacker from the Chargers, over the weekend. It's the first since Hassan Reddick. The return of several players to the Eagles have not excited me one iota. This one does give me a little upside excitement for the Birds. They needed a game, I don't want to say game-breaking, but a playmaking linebacker, and certainly he did that last year for Los Angeles. 4th most tackles in the NFL. Scale of A+ to F. How would you grade the linebacker signing for the Eagles this weekend?
If I had to put a letter grade, I'd give it a good solid B. You know, I remember when the Chargers came here, I don't know when it was, maybe a couple of years ago, and he was all over the field, Kazir White. He made 8 tackles.
Yeah, this past year they played the Chargers at the Lincoln Financial Field.
Yeah, right. So he, you know, and he had a really good game. 8 tackles. I think he did a good job down on the goal line, forcing a turnover on downs when the Eagles were in the red zone. Made a play. I mean, I like the kid. I think he's a good player, but I think he'll do well on this team. But how many years? And I've said this on your show. I'm so tired of these 1-year linebacker contracts with these players that just so far they really haven't worked out. Right? You could go down the list of linebackers they signed to 1-year deals and they haven't worked out. And, now you have a guy coming in who had 144 tackles on a defense that wasn't really good. Let's face it, the Chargers defense wasn't one of the best in the NFL. So, to me, I'm more of the mindset of let's go find somebody that you can stay here for 4 years.
All right, Eddie, I got an idea for you, buddy. The Philadelphia Eagles at number 15 draft Nakobe Dean rather than Kenny Pickett. If you want a linebacker who's going to be here for a couple of years, why don't you use that number 15 pick on a kid who's going to be a dominant player?
Jody, I had him taking Devin Lloyd in my first mock draft. I'm with you, man. I think they need to draft a linebacker that can stick around for a few years. And, and not go this 1 year, year-to-year thing with a linebacker. You know, it's kind of like duct tape, man. You're just putting duct tape over that position. And, you know, I like Kaiser White. I'm not saying he's going to be that. Maybe they actually get it right this time and he plays well enough to earn a second contract with the Eagles. But again, I'm going out and drafting somebody in the first round. When you have two players like Dean, I would take Dean for sure, or Devin Lloyd, but they just don't see it that way. And there's good linebackers you can get in the second round, Chad Muma and Raekwon Walker from Georgia. I mean, there are players you can take early in the draft. And for some reason, the Eagles aren't going to do it. You know, they love Davion Taylor. Don't love his injury history, obviously, but, you know, they spent a third-round pick on him, which was good. But let's bring somebody of pedigree in here first round and start building that position with some homegrown guys. I'm with you. I want a homegrown linebacker.
Ed, usually I'm the negative guy. Like I feel like at times I'm the only person in town who looks at TJ Edwards and go, look, the Eagles got lucky, but this kid can play. Like, why? Because he's undrafted coming out of Wisconsin. And we talk about pedigree all the time. People dismiss him. I mean, he's good. The Eagles are good with TJ Edwards. They're fine. They're looking for the other guy. They don't need anybody. If you played like TJ Edwards did last season, the Eagles are complete. I think Pro Football Focus had him as the 10th best linebacker in football. Number 10. That's how well he played when he took over that spot. And by the way, I think they had Kaiser White at number 20. So if you all of a sudden, you have two of the better linebackers, at least last year. Now, everything moves forward. You got to do it again, especially if you're undrafted. And maybe there's concern. But, boy, he's so instinctive. I don't think you're going to see a dramatic dip in play from TJ Edwards. Why have not Eagles fans realized they got a pretty good player at linebacker?
I think he has limitations. I think TJ Edwards has limitations. He can't cover very well. I don't think he's good at playing in in space. He's very good at getting to the ball, but I just think he has some limitations in coverage. And we've seen tight ends.
True, everything's about coverage. Everything's about coverage until you need. I tell Jody every day during March, nobody gives a crap about the running game. And now the Eagles have. At 238, we can say he's 240. He's really 235, 238 maybe. Guy trying to set the edge in Hassan Reddick. We got a 218-pound off-ball linebacker, used to play safety. You better have TJ Edwards in there. You better have TJ. Somebody's got to stop the run at some point. Or people are, Zach Martin's still in this division. And if you got a Hall of Fame guard kicking out, it's going to be pretty easy for him if you don't have TJ Edwards out there. I don't know. I don't know.
Listen, they didn't think that much of him. They only gave him a 1-year contract extension. I mean,
he got 2, didn't he? TJ got 2.
No, I think it was 1. I think he got 1 year. Well, 1. I think it was 1. But listen, I just think, he's a good.
Well, let's see if we get this right, and one of us can look it up real fast. He had a year to go on his deal, did he not? And it was a 1-year extension after that. So I think he's got 2 more years to run, this year and next. When you say contract extension, wasn't like they just got his deal done this year. I think going into 2022, he's got 2 years left on his contract, because that's a viable stat to have, piece of information to have, if you're going to evaluate how much the Eagles are committed to him. I know they did an extension with him. I think it was 1 year still to go, and then they tacked another year on.
They got all the voidable years. Yeah. So, I mean, but one thing, how he's good at, we all know this, he's not going to, if he doesn't have to pay a guy, he's not going to pay a guy. And you're talking about TJ Edwards is not, unrestricted at the time. So the fact that they gave him an extension, he was in that group with people, they identified early and kept him around a little bit longer. Now he's on a different timetable because he was an undrafted free agent, as opposed to they get 3 years as opposed to the 4 years draft picks are in. So you get the Josh Sweats and the Dallas Goederts and the Avonte Maddox, and who else? Jordan Mailata. They identified their core players and they extended them early. And that's one of the things where people talk about free agency, and they were disappointed about the first 10 days until the Kaiser White signing. Well, yeah, but the Eagles identified the players they wanted. They extended them early. You do have to give them credit for that. I know that upset a lot of people. And they thought, oh, the Eagles are telling all the beat writers. They didn't tell us that. We're just telling you that because it's true. That's, if Jordan Mailata hit free agency, he would be a franchise player. If Josh Sweat hit free agency, he would have got paid. He would have got paid significantly. I'm talking Hassan Reddick level money. If Dallas Goedert hit free agency, the Eagles would have had to franchise him. And Avonte Maddox, lesser paid position, but slot corner, he would have been one of the top paid slot corners in the NFL. So that is a part of it, and a part of free agency, and the fact that the Eagles target the players they think have upside. And they targeted TJ Edwards. Different level, different position, not as valuable. But that says something about TJ.
Yeah, TJ can make tackles. I mean, he was second on the team this past year, but their first top tackler is now off the team, Alex Singleton, the last 2 years. He's gone. So, I don't know. I'm just, let's address this position in the draft. Let's get a guy in here with cost certainty for X amount of years. Let him grow. They don't have a backup for TJ Edwards. I mean, I guess Sean Bradley would be the guy that would step into the middle if he were to get hurt, whereas I think Lloyd can play inside and outside, and maybe even Dean, too, to an extent, could downshift into the middle. But Kaiser White can't play the middle. I don't think Davion Taylor can play the middle. So I don't know. I'm just of the mindset is, let's stop throwing these one-year deals at the wall and hope one of them sticks. Let's bring somebody in, especially one with pedigree. I mean, Micah Parsons would have been great, right, last year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're guys that I think Dean and Lloyd will be pretty good. They could have had Patrick Queen, who's down in Baltimore, tearing it up. They could have taken him. They could have taken Kenneth Murray, who I think has been a bit of a disappointment in San Diego or at Los Angeles with the Chargers. But I just think, listen, you're going to have to spend at that position sooner or later in the draft. And the Eagles, just for some reason, just continue to frustrate me and so many others from not doing it.
All right, the last one for me. This offseason, we've seen two of the, I would say, three best wide receivers in the National Football League, certainly two of the best five, in Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill get traded. Trading wide receivers has become something that we're not used to in the NFL, but this offseason it's happened. There are still some good wide receivers out there that you may question the fit with their team now. Devonta Parker with the Dolphins. Are the Seahawks even going to try and be competitive this year? What are they going to do with their two wide receivers? Are the Eagles going to be able to make a big deal around the draft? If it's going to happen, I think it's probably going to wait till the draft now. With their extra capital as far as draft picks go, are they going to get a veteran wide receiver? Because I'm sorry, Zach Pascal just doesn't do it for me.
Well, I think what Zach Pascal gives you, though, is, a competent receiver, somebody who can
He's wide receiver 4, right? That's what he is. He's a 4.
Yeah. On this team, he would be a 3, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to be moving we're already moving Quez from a 3 to a 2. We don't need to move Zach from a 4 to a 3 just because, in other words, they need a 2 receiver to put everybody in their proper position.
Yeah, they do. It's the domino effect.
Yeah, but I think Pascal gives you something. Like, say maybe the Eagles now feel comfortable drafting Jameson Williams from Alabama, a kid that is not going to be ready to play at the start of the year, but maybe he is, halfway through October or November. But Pascal gives you a guy that's kind of an insurance policy until you get Jameson Williams back. I love Jameson Williams at Alabama this year. I thought he was the best receiver in the draft, and he still might be. But maybe that's what he does. Maybe the Eagles say, now we can go get him because we have somebody, and maybe they think Pascal is the veteran receiver. He's 27 years old. He's been in the league 4 years. This will be his 5th year. He's caught 15 touchdown passes in 4 seasons, which is, that's a pretty significant number, 15 TDs. That's almost 4 a year since coming into the league as an undrafted free agent. I'm not sure if you're going to get a receiver. They had a deal lined up with Calvin Ridley, right? They were probably going to get Calvin Ridley. So it does tell you they want a receiver. And I'm sure they're not satisfied with Pascal. But then who's out there that kind of fits that bill? I'm not sure. Maybe you can think of somebody, but Jarvis Landry, to me, I'm not sure he's a fit. There's a rumor he wanted $20 million a year.
$20 million,
I mean,
yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Again, receivers a position where maybe you need to just draft guys and get them on the cheap and develop them into the receivers that then be ready to strike with their second contract after 4 years when they prove they can play. Because you look at some of these numbers these receivers are getting and these trades that are taking place, and it's hard to compete in that arena, if you're the Eagles and so many other teams. So I'm not sure who's out there, to be honest, to go out and get.
Ed Kracz, edside.com/NFL/Eagles. Eagles Today, by the way, rebranding. Eagles Today. You can read Ed there. You can read me there if you so choose. Last one for me, Ed. Last one overall. Quez Watkins. Sort of what I was talking about. To me, that's the bigger issue than Zach Pascal. Yeah, Jody, I don't want Zach Pascal playing. But if you got to throw him out there as the slot receivers, the wide receiver 3, kind of the disconnect for, like, people don't think TJ Edwards can play, but a lot of people think Quez Watkins can play. If you go into a season with Quez Watkins as your wide receiver 2 in the NFL, you are setting up Jalen Hurts for failure. Is that too harsh, or am I on the right path?
The Eagles think Quez Watkins is good, and that was one of the things they said about Jalen Hurts is they want to see him grow with the receivers that are here, and he's demonstrated that with Quez Watkins. He's demonstrated it with Devontae Smith, so now they're hoping they can take the next leap with Quez as the number 2. And we'll see. I don't know if they look at it as they're setting him up for failure. It's certainly not what they gave Tua down there in Miami to work with.
No, it certainly is not.
No, but they believe in Quez, and you had your number 2 go for over 600 yards in an offense that was mostly run based, and they like that, and they feel like he can be your number 2. And do we agree with it? And I haven't seen the body of work. Same with TJ Edwards, like you said, that demonstrates he can be the number 2. I would like to see more with Jalen Hurts. I'd like to see them give him more weapons. Obviously, I don't think they're purposely setting him up to fail. I think they legitimately tried to bring in.
Well, they tried to bring in receivers.
Yeah.
So they identify it, but I do think there's this sort of comfort with Quez Watkins, and I don't understand it. Not with the Eagles, with the fan base, and I don't necessarily understand it.
Yeah, I want to see it again. I'm always of the, okay, you did it once, now let's see if you can do it twice. And we've seen receivers like Travis Fulgham have a great stretch and then just kind of fall off the map. So we have to see Quez do it again. And I think he can, but I can't say 100%. Yeah, he can. I'm sure him and Jalen Hurts are probably getting together and throwing passes together in the off season. But I believe in him. I think he can do it. But again, I just can't say that with 100% certainty.
Eddie Kracz, always a pleasure. We appreciate you joining us. We'll certainly be looking to stream you on in next week as well. Maybe something breaks when the owners' meetings, Big Eagle move. Either way, we'll be reading about it on SI with you, and we'll get you back here on Birds 365. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, guys.
Ed Kracz here with us on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald. We'll come back, a couple more Eagle issues. We're going to start something we're going to do over the course of the week. We're going to try and get someone on from each of the 3 towns with the 3 teams that are in the NFC East. We're breaking down what the Eagles are doing here in free agency or haven't gotten done yet. We'll take a look at the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Commanders as well. We'll do the first of those drop-ins today, heading down to Big D. John Machota, Dallas writer for The Athletic, is going to hop aboard with us coming up in about 20 minutes here on Birds 360.